Stop the cap.
Okay, so Captain Solo and I are having a continuation of this conversation about black men moving back into the black community or a place that's predominantly black or fixing and repairing a community or a neighborhood. Now, I already know the grumbles have already started. I know there's going to be a whole bunch of comments of people talking about the community is dead. I'm saying Cat wants to walk through it. I'm walking through it. Um, I kind of feel like it's a dead conversation for a number of reasons, but I'm gonna walk through the details of why. Like I feel like it's a dead conversation. Like I said in my last video, um, when it comes to educated black folks, a lot of educated black folks are not interested in fixing the community. In my opinion, they're not. They want to go and take their degree, their professional education, and go and buy something nice and basically um, trying to think who I could point to who's living, a nice lifestyle. I don't know, just living in new construction suburbs type of house, right? Toll Brothers or some shit like that, right? 3-car garage, 4-bedroom, the great room in the middle, right? Um, got the master bedroom with the master bathroom, right? That's how educated black people envision living, right? In the suburbs. Those that want to live in the city, they want to live in a high rise. They want to live, with tall ceilings and I don't know, where you can see, the timbers come through the brick, that type of thing. And there's some new places they have it where you can see the venting and stuff like that, and it's like, oh, it's just so modern, chic. I don't even know what the terminology is, right? But they want to have their luxury car, their Mercedes Benz, their BMW, and they want to shine and be black excellence, right? But when you start talking about moving back into a community, and the thing is like, I guess we got to draw the line because like you have, like, we went through a number of communities, like even in Philadelphia, like, because Kat wanted to relate it to me, and some of these areas I know, other ones I don't know. But you can go and you can pull up like Hood Maps Philadelphia, or you can pull up what's another one? Hood Maps or Racial Demographics of Philadelphia, and you can see that Philadelphia is very segregated. Okay, and Philadelphia is a city that it's up there in terms of being a large city with a large black population, but a lot of those black people are poor. And it's kind of like, I'd say probably Baltimore is worse, but Philadelphia has a, I don't know, it hides all of its poverty, but at the same time, um, it can't hide the crime, right? Because the crime is like just over the top, right? And you'll see this with like Charlie Bow 313. He's the guy that drives. He's got the YouTube channel. He drives through neighborhoods in Philadelphia. And Captain Solo, he's not suggesting any of those areas. There's a couple guys on Instagram, and don't get me wrong, the houses look fantastic on the inside. After these guys, and they, first off, the prices are just insane. $340,000, house row home in the middle of North Philly because they gutted the whole thing and they renovated it, and oh, it looks fantastic. But the house next door is vacant. I mean, literally abandoned. got boarded up windows and shit like that. And then the neighborhood that you're in, I mean, you got gangs all around. You got cats driving around looking for ops. You know what I mean? Like where would an educated black person like move into that area, especially one that's unfamiliar with the area? I could see maybe if you came from that area, you knew people and you got connections and ties to the neighborhood. Going back to what, Ice T said, when he was talking about, why he doesn't go back to the hood. He's like, I'm not he's like when you down on the ground, you see everything. He's like, I'm not connected into that shit. All the shit that's going around, right? But Cap gets into the whole concept, the whole idea. We were having these conversations in the past. Was you go into the environment and you be a role model and you're present and you're showing up. The only person I've ever seen do that in Philadelphia is Kenny Gamble. Kenny Gamble, uh, Kenny Gamble. If y'all don't know, Kenny Gamble, he had a charter school. Um, and I think he still has the charter school. But anyway, he bought a row home, two row homes, gutted both of them, and basically turned the shit into a McMansion. That's what Kenny Gamble did. He's got to be up in age now. But he moved in, was trying to show that you got to be there and you got to be present and whatnot. But you know what the problem is with a lot of that, and it's not to knock what he did. It's just it's the the mechanisms that go into all like that make up a community, right? The businesses, the politics, the schools, the police department, the banquet halls, the church. I don't even like the church, but I'd co-sign a black church in a black community where there are economic opportunities around where you could, people got their little faith but it's a place where people can congregate and they can meet each other. I would allow the church to exist in the black community just off of that, even though I know that they're going to be filling people's heads full of a bunch of, hopey, feel goodery, despite your economic condition not changing bullshit, right? Keeping black people all magical. But I recognize it as a place where people meet and there's connections and all that other stuff. Again, if the economic opportunities were there, that's how much, my the concept of a community is, in my brain, right? But anyway, going back to the house that was being renovated, the inside looked fantastic. I'm sure you've seen these videos on Instagram where I mean, literally, the guys flying through the house with the drone, you know what I mean, and it's showing you, and it's like shit looks laid out. It laid out. I don't think anybody would sit there and be like, yo, I couldn't live, in that house. But it's like, but as soon as you walk out the front door, it's like, bam, like reality just hits. The poverty hits. You know what I mean? The fucking the nigga outside, standing on the corner with the hoodie and shit. You know what I mean? Like just motherfuckers just hanging on the porch all day. It like that is where this shit was showing the thing. But Cap's whole conversation with me is about one, it's like the envisioning it being able to be fixed up. The second part is about, is it good enough for you? Yeah, the house is good enough for me, but the neighborhood is a fucking problem. The neighborhood is a fucking problem. And then you got the whole conversation about, what the culture is of that environment. Like when white people go and they move to an area, like white people are not fixing anything up. When wealthy white people move into an area, they just move into an area, and they buy all the shit they want, put it in the house, and there's in Home Depots and Chick-fil-A's and freaking Whole Foods and Chipotle start popping up all over the fucking place, right? And they just go from there, right? And the poor white people, like they're like off somewhere else, right? They don't deal with poor white people culture. They don't deal with poor white poverty. They don't deal with none of that shit. There's no poor white there's no culture that comes with white poverty. You ever notice that? Like when it comes to black people and poverty, there's a culture that comes with black people being poor, right? The whole the underclass, the hip hop, the street culture, the gang culture, all that other stuff. But when white people are poor, it's like white people are just poor. Like there's no poor white culture that comes with being poor and white. I guess the only thing that comes with being poor and white is the drug culture. I guess them being like, hey, let's do some drugs and get high, right? Like that's what comes with being poor and white. But with black people being poor and black, it's street culture, it's gang culture, it's gun violence, it's all this shit that comes with that shit, and that's what black people would be going in there contending with. Now, after being on the internet all this time, like a couple things that I recognize. Like when it comes to black men, I know that most black men that went through the grind, got their education, schooling, all that other stuff, what I mean, they want all that delayed gratification, especially with the way that black women out here sitting on Pookie's dick, and he gets to run through a bunch of bitches and everything. A lot of these guys, they wanted to do that legitimately, and they want to have the material wealth and the nice shiny things so they can go out there and they can attract the women that they want to attract. It's weird because they'll bitch about gold diggers, but at the same time they want to have all the nice and fly shit and everything else like that, and that includes having the freaking nice apartment or nice, condo or nice, home, whatever it is nice. And nice usually equates to white communities because white people have wealth. White people have resources, and there's way more white people with resources in any, given particular area, so and then you have the whole thing about homes and equity, right? Because of the racism of redlining and the realtors, the what is it, the realtors of America or whatever the damn organization is, all the fucked up shit that they did with redlining and all that other stuff. So if you're black and you want to have equity in your home and everything else, you can't move into a black neighborhood because black neighborhoods don't appreciate, right? Um, all right, so we go through all this. I don't know what it looks like, with a black name. But like, what do the property values look like in DeSoto, Texas? Do they go up? Have they gone up? Have they gone up at the same rate of the national average, like PG County? Do they go up? Have they stayed stagnant? What is it? Like where, because the whole thing is you gotta have what aside from the redlining and all the historical shit, what makes white communities, like the equity in white communities, go up is you always have a steady flux of new white people who want to move into those areas. With black people, it's like the neighborhoods get worse because of the economic situation, and you don't have a flux of black people who want to move into those areas, or the black people who do want to move into those areas just barely qualify in terms of moving into those areas, right? So the homes don't have any real equity. I get the black people that got the most equity out of their homes are the black people who bought shit like back in the day, maybe the 70s or something like that, and they're dying. Some of the silent generation and some of the boomers, they're dying, and so that's how the house ends up, exchanging hands. Um, but like black people, my generation or more recently, some of the Gen Xers and whatnot, like they don't move into neighborhoods that appreciate like that. They barely get anything out of that home. It doesn't have the type of value that white neighborhoods have, where people, they buy a house, they sit on it for 2 years, and then the house gains $75,000 in equity, that type of shit. And that's going to be a major concern when it comes to educated black people with degrees and all that other stuff. This is a major concern, because, it's like, okay, black, I'm educated, I got this job or this career, or I started a small business, whatever it may be. Now that they got resources, okay, now I got to focus on building generational wealth. How do you build generational wealth in a black community when the property values don't appreciate. Okay, that's just one aspect. Then you have the whole argument about, you know, the being the example and for young men in the community and all that. And I'm like, I don't see where the respect is. Number one, you do have to come in there with economic opportunities. It's not just about trying to change their mindset. There's a lot of black people got this really bad issue that white people have, which is they keep thinking that it's all about changing people's mindset, despite the fact that they're living in the exact same conditions, that you found them in. I'm like, that's not going to work. You cannot have people still existing and operating in the same poverty they were operating in when you found them and think that, oh, because I gave them a bunch of words of encouragement, that's somehow going to change their outlook, on the world. It's a bunch of bullshit. But I know why people do that, because again, nobody wants it to cost them. Nobody wants to face the reality that in order to really turn some shit around, you're going to have to inject some resources into that situation. Again, the white middle class was not was is artificially created. It was artificially created after World War II. And white people still haven't accepted that reality. They think that somehow their whiteness is why you ended up with Levittown, New Jersey, and Levittown, Pennsylvania. That's not why. It's because the government, went in there with the federal, what is it called? The Federal Housing Act, and, subsidized mortgages and all that shit that was going on with the bank, 30-year mortgages. That didn't exist before. You know what I mean? Putting 10% down and then you could go and then pay it off over time with a little bit of interest. That didn't exist anymore. You know what I'm saying? So the vast majority of white people, we're living like, just marginally above black people. Or, all the people, especially like the white people who many of them, their family didn't even get here until the 1920s. Come on, like, no. But you let white people tell it, oh, their white awesomeness is what created, the white middle class, and that there wasn't a system designed to give them a leg up and give them, an economic floor that was denied African Americans. So, we have a whole different problem, when it comes to dealing with, the inner city and correcting these problems and all that. And I don't even know if it can be corrected. And I don't even think that the vast majority of so-called bougie black people have the desire to want to do that, because they want to live their life. And one of the things, the errors that I feel like Captain Solo makes a lot of times, and he takes it into consideration, but like he still gets, number one of the, let me back up. One of the things, Cap has the skills to sit there literally looking at an abandoned house, and he's going to do all the drywall. He's going to put in all the sinks. He's going to put in all the hardwood floors, because he was a contractor. He's going to put in all the lights fixtures. He's going to do that shit himself and do that shit as a fraction of the fucking cost. Most black men of today, millennials, have no clue where to even begin with shit like that. Okay, so immediately you get into cost, and like I said in the other video, motherfuckers start talking about hiring Mexicans to come in there and fix some shit and everything else like that. And see, the thing is you're so disconnected from, the blood, sweat, and tears that you're putting into this shit, that you start getting into well, why not just go over here with new construction? Why not just go over here and get a contractor or land developer or whatever to build me a brand new house that's nowhere near all the fuck shit, right? All the crap that you see, with like everybody now with the rings on their door, and you see all this like crime and shit. Y'all saw the ring where the guys were standing outside the door and they were flashing guns in front of the door. No, nobody want to deal with no shit like that. They were all standing out there with their Dracos and their guns and flashing it in the door ring. Nobody want to deal with no shit like that. And then that's another issue, when it comes to the fucking violence. You're not connected into the community. You know what I mean? You walking into a community where it's like The Walking Dead. You're dealing with the Black Negan, and you don't even know who the Black Negan is. You come in there, maybe what you're doing with 10 other black men, and we'll get to that in a second. 10 other black men is disrupting what's going on with the drug dealers. Now, next thing you know, They fucking with you. Somebody gets killed. Somebody gets carjacked. Three niggas hop out the car, because you got your BMW parked in front of the house that you're trying to renovate. Like, just imagine, right? Y'all remember the 2005 PBS special Flag Wars, right? Just imagine, like, a bunch that was all gay people, right? The banks, they were throwing money at the gay white people, and they were like, oh, go clean up the thing. And you had the black man with his sign, and he didn't wanted to stay in the neighborhood, and they were trying to get him out of there by hitting him with these stupid ass town ordinances and shit like that, right? Just imagine a bunch of black people, because remember when that white gay guy got hit with the rock, right? They had a little sit down, and they were, discussing, what their plan was, as a gay neighborhood, as the gayborhood, right? That's what they were doing, right? But just imagine a bunch of black men sitting there, sitting around, same situation, talking about, what they're going to do to deal with the Ray Rays and Pookies. Right. And see, this is where the whole, like, even part of the problem, because the whole goal is to not replace these people. The goal is to change the environment, change the culture of the community, show them a better way. Right. Which then you even get into all this shit about the fucking arrogance. Like, nigga, who the fuck you think you are coming in here thinking that you teaching a nigga something, blah, 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 blah. Right. You get all that. Right. Because and oh, nigga, you ain't no better than me. You get all that bullshit that you got to fucking deal with. Where your kids are going to go to school, who your kids are going to go to school with. You know what I mean? Now you risking, all that shit with your own kids. Your kids getting in a fight with some kid at school. His parents are on some dumb shit, so he's on some dumb shit. He pulls a gun on your son in the bathroom, shoots your son in the bathroom. Just dumb bullshit. Now you got to bury your child and shit like that. Right? Motherfuckers pulling up to the house, they shooting at the house, all that other stuff. Then what else we got going on? Oh, black women. I have dated black women who I know, some of the neighborhoods that Captain Solo pointed out, they wouldn't want to move there. He's pointing out neighborhoods that were basically where white people who were middle class back in, like, anywhere from the 1940s to like the 1970s, would have lived. Some of these houses, like back in like the 70s, you were the shit if you had a split level home. Like, that was like the new thing, right? You was solidly white middle class if you had a split level home, in the 70s. I look at split level home, suburban neighborhoods, like, this shit is old. Like, that's how I look at it. I just look at it like, this shit is old. The bedrooms are small. You know what I mean? It's everything, like, literally, like, there is no master bedroom. The master bedroom to me has two doors that you swing open when you walk through that motherfucker. If you got a single door to get into the bedroom where the adults are, that ain't a master bedroom. You know what I mean? You fucking remember, I'm tall. If I raise my hand, I'm touching the damn ceiling and shit like that. You know what I mean? Like, I just look at those houses, and those houses to me are tight as fuck. If it was just me and a woman and a kid, you know what I mean? Yeah, it would be that's a good, starter home, but that's not like my goal. That's not like, that's not the fantasy. That's not ultimately where I want to be. It's just not, which is why I always focused on the idea of, getting a career that pays a high income, and then you could just come in at the level that you want to come in at. You know, all people can argue with me, it's a flawed mentality. That was my mentality. Okay. Um, what else? Aside from fucking displacing people, the neighborhood, the crime. Oh, the proxy to violence. Even if you're not like right there, like, nobody's saying you gotta be like these bullshit videos on Instagram where these people are showing these renovated luxurious row homes in the middle of the heart of the ghetto. You know what I mean? No, but I'm saying you got, like, some of the neighborhoods the cat showed, like, the poverty or crime is like, it's too close to where, where the hoodlums are at. It's just too close. It's like this shit. I don't know if y'all remember, I did the video on the white guy that was on Spring Garden. He was on Spring Garden, on the gentrified side of Spring Garden, and he got robbed by a 16-year-old and I forget, 16 and 17-year-old. I think it was. Anyway, the 16-year-old got trigger happy and shot the man. in the head in front of his 2-year-old child. White guy. Okay. He was like a lawyer or something. I forget what he did, but he was a professional guy starting his family, you know, got blown away, right? Just, I could imagine them white folks, they just going through it. Niggas will always be just the worst ever to them. And, they'll just be racist for the rest of their lives. Okay. But it's like, any person, not just saying any black person, but anybody who lived in Philadelphia for any reasonable time, even though now basically downtown Philadelphia, anything around, center city has basically been gentrified. Like I remember, you would go across the Benjamin Franklin Bridge and there were warehouses on the right side of Vine Street. Them motherfuckers been abandoned forever. Like they were just there forever. Just with just and they turned them motherfuckers into luxury apartments. You know what I'm saying? I was in another state. I came back and I was like, what the fuck is this? You know what I mean? They had that shit. All these, you can see in there look like art studios and shit like that. It's just what it looked like. People got random bamboo trees. Them artsy fartsy people. They love those studio apartments. The ones where you got the fucking windows that they don't like. They like crack open at the bottom. You crank them open and then you crank them closed, right? Like that type of shit, right? They got these floor to ceiling, type of windows that you crank open and shit. They eat that shit up. All the white people, them artsy fartsy white people, they eat that shit up, right? But that shit was abandoned warehouses for the longest fucking time. But anyway, so the gentrification happened, and the white guy, he was living on the side that was gentrified, but the hood was right on the other side of fucking Spring Garden. And they fucking came over and they killed. And that's not the first time it's happened. There's been many times it's happened. Even since there's been many times. There was a guy, a Temple student, that was walking his fucking dog at like 10 o'clock at night, and they ran up on him, and for some stupid reason they shot him. I mean, it's right next to the hood. Like I said, they typically what happens is, like I said, the white people, they send in the bohemians, the artisans, the hipsters. Even if you look at that hood map and you look at right above Spring Garden, it'll show you where it says hipsters. This is where the hipsters live. Yeah, and eventually the hipsters will be pushed out, and then the white men with their families, they'll come in there. But like, what's funny is on that hood map, it says right above Spring Garden, it says something to the effect of like, what is? Hold on, I'll tell you exactly what it says. It says, hold on. It says, where's it at? And suddenly a full-sized Target. Okay, I read that wrong. I thought it was saying that you are a Target. But anyway, yeah, more public housing right above that, and suddenly a full-size Target. So I guess they put a Target. They put a Target in that area, which again, they ain't putting Target there for niggas. They putting Target there for them white folks. That's what they putting the fucking Target there, right? Because again, the city planning, all this other stuff. Like there's a major financial backing anytime white people move into an area. Black people don't get that. Black people, we will have these arguments. Oh, it's self-hate because niggas don't want to move in there and da 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 da. And there's something wrong with us because we ain't doing this and doing that. And we should be around our own people and blah, 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 blah. But like, we don't get, all this type of, capital, to change, the demographics, of an area. And again, that's not the goal. We're not trying to, nor should we be trying to, quote unquote, push the poors out. That's what white people do. White people push all of the poors out, right? Because they are the apex, dominant group, right? So they put out the poor blacks, they push out the poor whites, the poor Asians. If you're poor, you can't fuck with them. And since white people have wealth, it's still going to be a majority white people there, and they'll just say classism and call it a fucking day. But with black folks, you start talking about going and you trying to clean up the black community. Again, first thing you got to have is you got to have economic opportunities for the young men that are in that environment. If you ain't got that, you ain't talking about shit. Okay, all you're gonna do is do the same bullshit the black church has done forever. Is sit up there and talk about TD Jakes. Well, it's not our job. That's not the responsibility of the church. You're gonna go up there and say some shit like that, even though this motherfucker's vacuuming all type of money out of the community. Yeah, because it's the white church doesn't have those. Yeah, because the white church, again, we already know the history of white people and the white community. The white church isn't going to get hit with those type of problems, those type of responsibilities. The black church is, and the black church loves to be right knee deep in the shit. Black people, the black church sees poor black people. It's like, oh, let me build a church here. Hurry up, oh, and notice that's when the banks are like, oh, how much money you need for that black church? But if some black people were like, hey, we're trying to build a black community, black neighborhood or whatever, and we need some land development and we need some capital for that. Them banks ain't trying to hear that shit. But oh, a black church, oh, how much money you need? Right? This is the fuckery and the bullshit of this system, which is why we continue to have these conversations about reparations. But the other thing, and this is just me talking about the shit. Like I said, you're gonna need an enforcement arm. When it comes to educated black folks, yeah, I talk to y'all, and we talk about the Second Amendment. I got brothers that come to me and they talk about hey, you convinced me to exercise my Second Amendment rights, da 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 da, and they love quoting me and talking about, man, I was out there the other night. I get messages from brothers like this, I was walking down the street, man, all I could think about was you, Pete. Man, I was like, damn, I'm out here with nothing but my ass. You know what I mean? So, they start thinking about the shit, but the vast majority of us don't. Them niggas is out there that would. You got black men out here that they would rather buy a piece of fucking jewelry, a nice watch or something like that. You know what I'm talking about? Them skinny niggas with them shark scale, a shark skin type of gray suits and shit like that. Like to wear the damn gaiters with no socks, type of shit. And they be looking gay and they be looking gayer than a motherfucker, right? Don't work out, you know what I mean? Got a fantastic job, fantastic career, drive a great car, and they just be out here acting like they're white men. You know what I mean? And I don't mean that from like an Uncle Tom standpoint. I mean they operate like they can't be touched, like they're not a target. And they tend to, hang around and be around, white folks, or even sometimes they're not around white folks. Like depends on the city that you're in. They'll be like in Houston, them brothers are only gonna be all around black folks. But, they the ones with the tight shorts and shit like that. It should be all tight. You know what I mean? It's like, motherfucker, your shit's so tight, I already know you ain't got one on you. You know what I mean? That type of shit. And, like, how I want to say this. They just not built to deal with Ray Ray and Pookie. They're not there yet, mentally or anything else. You know what I mean? Where Pookie would be like, damn. Like, it's like when you saw that scene in A Blind Side where Sandra Bullock's character was like, if you so much as come downtown, my what did she say? Something like my husband's the DA or something like that, or friends with the DA, blah 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 blah. Like she rattled through a whole list of, fuck around and find out. And I don't see educated black folks positioning themselves to be on some fuck around and find out type of shit where it's like, yeah, I don't think we want that type of smoke. On top of when it comes to like the police department and everything, the police, they cater to the white people. You go out to the suburbs and shit like that, let them police not show up and not respond like they do in the black community. And you will have, the fucking some white folk will make a fucking a phone call You know what I'm saying? And heads will fucking roll because those white folks got money and their money pays the taxes for the township that goes to the police department that pays the police officers. Oh, heads will fucking roll. Okay? But in the black community, like the black politicians, the black police officers, or even if the police officers aren't black, that's a whole nother problem because the police officers are white. You know what I mean? And yes, they police the whole city, but they're more focused on policing where the white folks are, not where the black folks are, because the black folks don't have that type of political pull because the black folks don't have any money, right? But then you go over and let's just say some black people, some educated black people try to move into a particular area, right? Some of them may get involved in politics, some of them not, right? And they might you might get something from them if they have the capital and if they work together, which typically they don't. But I'm saying the black politicians, they're going to they're verbally cater to, the people who vote for them, which is like, huge swaths of just, row homes for miles and nothing but single moms. Like that's what you're going to see. That's what you're going to see in Philadelphia. Just row homes for miles and nothing but single moms. Baltimore is even worse. Like Baltimore, the sea of row homes in Baltimore, it like you will get lost in that bitch. Like that shit is so jam packed. Because again, all that was, the housing that was made for all the manufacturing that was going on. But the monotony of, I don't know if y'all have ever driven through Baltimore, the monotony of Baltimore neighborhoods. You know what I mean? They kind of like go up and down. It's like kind of like rolling a hill type of thing. Sometimes you're going up a hill, sometimes you're going down. But like it's just it's like you just lose track of where you are. It's just crazy. But anyway, Philly's got like a sort of similar setup. But I can always just look at a stack of row homes and know that I'm looking at Baltimore versus looking at Philly because it's somehow Baltimore where them houses they're like tighter and more jam packed. You know what I mean? Like which just goes to show you, these are for the workers. Yes, we'll build row homes, but these are for the workers. Where in Philadelphia, you being the country's capital at one point, the houses are, a little bit more, whatever, bougie. A lot of the houses were built like turn of the century, late 1800s, early 1900s. Um, but anyway, I'm not specifically talking about those type of neighborhoods. I'm just saying, you know what I mean? If you're a black person and you move in, with a group of black men, which I'm going to get to in a second, how are the politics going to play out? You know what I mean? Are the politicians going to be on your side in terms of what you're trying to do in that environment? They may or may not be. What discussions will you need to have with the local street gangs and local thugs and shit like that? And I'm saying it's not always like a completely hostile situation. It can get to that point. It can get to that point, especially if you decide to get beside you're gonna have to have some serious muscle behind you that goes beyond just you thinking that hey, I'm trying to help you, y'all niggas need to act right. Nah, that ain't gonna work. You know what I mean? But what will work is you'll have a lot of street dudes that, yeah, they're in the streets and that's how they eat and that's how they provide for their family, but they don't want their kids in the streets. You know what I'm saying? So you start talking about I'm doing stuff for the kids, and they will see to it that you get left the fuck alone. I promise you that. I've witnessed that shit. Okay? They will see to it that you get left the fuck alone, and if something does happen, street justice will be served. I have seen that. So it's not, again, you're still dealing with people. You're still dealing with, it ain't just, oh, they're just a bunch of savages out here. No, there are savages out here, and the savages got to be put in the dirt. But that's not all of them. It's just some of them. And it's just a problem that you're going to have to contend with. And like I said, a lot of black people that don't have to deal with these type of problems, they don't want to deal with these type of problems. You start talking about them having their own kids in that environment, and they're like, no. Yes, the suburbs is an environment, the white suburbs is an environment where self hate very well may grow faster. Your daughter's going to feel that she's not pretty enough compared to the white girls. Your sons might end up being thirsty for white girls because he's on the football team, and just like those that pictures of all those what were they, black, it was like a picture of, it was like all black boys with all black girls going to prom. I don't know if y'all saw that picture. Right? That's why these white boys are shooting the fucking place up. Stealing our precious white bitches. You know what I mean? Like, that's why they shooting the fucking place up. But anyway, I'm saying, yeah, that's an environment where self-hate will grow faster. You got to deal with racist white people and their microaggressions and shit like that. But it's also an environment where, you know, your son is less likely to be shot. Y'all can say what you want. Yes, oh yeah, the police is out here shooting black people and this, that, and yeah, it goes on. But the reality is your son would be more likely to be shot by another black man in an inner city urban environment because he crossed the wrong person than to be shot by police, than to be shot by a white police officer in the suburbs. You know what I mean? Again, it depends on the officer. It depends on the city and the history of the city and what type of shit, is going on. But like, when it comes down to the idea of black people picking their poison, it's like neither situation is a perfect situation. You move to the white suburbs, your kids get a better education, it's a safer environment, they have access to, certain things and resources and shit like that. You're not scared and terrified of where they are, what they're doing and all that other shit. But there's the racial microaggressions versus, the inner city, you know what I mean? They might, end up being caught up in, some shit, and you getting police officers at your front door, at 3 o'clock in the morning, removing their hats and shit like that. Like, it's a reality. It's a fucking reality. I mean, look no further than, fucking Gilly the Kid and what happened to his son, right? And this is somebody who's supposed to be, connected, in the city of Philadelphia. This is somebody, who's tied into the Muslim community in the city of Philadelphia, right? Right? But, we all see, what happened with that shit. That's the type of shit that has educated black people saying, like, I ain't really trying to fuck with that shit. Right? On top of the fact that, real talk, without the community component, right? And this is where, I get what Cap is saying, but like, this is my whole issue with the group shit, right? Because I have not seen, nor do I trust, and I'm saying this, nor do I trust, the idea that, black men are going to move into an area, like 10 of them are going to move into a spot. If I saw that, you know what I mean? Oh yeah, I might definitely buy into a situation like that. I'm like, oh y'all, this is what we doing? You know what I mean? But the problem that I see is, you know, I can talk about the type of mentorship and the programs and the connections and how we got to get rid of the fucking matriarchy, and you got to have patriarchy, and you got to have male responsibilities being taught, connected to black male leadership. And then you have to have, those the idea and the concept of those community responsibilities tied to either one of two things, right? Because everybody's not focused on power. You have that aspect of those focused on power, and then you have the aspects of those who are focused on gaining the respect and the validation from the men that taught them the skills and the abilities to go out there and handle business. That carries a lot of weight with young men. Okay, this is why a lot of the young men out here are out here, trying to be the most gangsterist of gangster. A lot of them are clout chasing. They're looking for attention. They're looking for acknowledgement. They're looking for respect. That's what they're looking for, okay? And then you have the other part, which is just completely missing, in my opinion, which is the brotherhood aspect. And the brotherhood aspect is not some fucking intrinsic bullshit. That's why I can't stand when women get in a conversation, because just like the fucking church, where they always think some shit is some intrinsic bullshit. No, again, when you're a part of a community, the community has an obligation and a duty to you, and you have an obligation and a duty to that community. Okay, you are a participating member of the community and you reap the benefits of the community. Okay, Jewish people go hard in the paint for the Jewish community because they reap the benefits of the Jewish community. If you have a community where you don't reap the benefits, people say, fuck the community. Hell, you see this with poor whites, when poor white women go off and they run off with a black man. And people are like, oh, well, what about her whiteness or some shit like that? What about the white community? She ain't thinking about no fucking white community when the black man that she's dating has more to offer her than her poor podunk daddy living in the middle of fucking Appalachia and shit. And she just so happens to be a white woman with a fat ass. Hey, I can go over here with the brothers and get more from them. Shit, fucking motherfuckers are not just loyal to an idea that doesn't manifest any fucking thing. You know what I mean? Black people need to stop being mad. That's why I get into it with the fucking hoteps and all these looking out they third eye niggas and vibrating at a higher frequency. And when you get into the goddamn tangibles, you can't have a conversation about the fucking tangibles. They want to talk about, everything is magical and intrinsic and shit like that. It's not how communities function and work. You know what I mean? But again, when it comes to the mentorship, the mentorship is connected to patriarchal concepts. And those patriarchal concepts are tied to, responsibility, that's connected to leadership, that is connected to, having a group of men, that are focused on one unified goal, like a goddamn football team. Are we going to win the season? Yeah, we're going to win the season. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like that's what they're focused on. Okay, and then in a situation like that, just like when soldiers go off to fucking boot camp and they shed them of their own individual identity, and then, you motherfuckers is out there fighting. You can have two people, they go into military racist as fuck, and they can come out the military and be the best, they got closer bonds with those guys than anybody that they'll have in their entire life because they were engaged in combat together. Okay, they went through the shit together. You see? But we don't have that in the black community when it comes to, young men. We don't have, that sort of focus, those sorts of goals, that level of trust. I mean, this goes back to I think it was Nellie Fuller, who said it was either Nellie Fuller or I think it was Nellie Fuller and it was Dr. Claude Anderson. Because one of the main reasons we can't work with one another is because we don't trust each other. Okay, we don't trust each other, and that's a big issue. Now, where do you build trust? There has to be some level of reciprocity. There has to be some level of training, but that trust has to be there. Like, I need to know, if I fucking, okay, I move into a community with 10 brothers, we're trying to change the demographics of the area and clean it up or whatever, like some neighborhood outside of fucking Detroit. We're all gonna move back in. We're gonna make this, our enclave or whatever, our base of operation. Okay, I need to know when I leave my fucking house, that the other dudes in the neighborhood are watching my shit. You know what I mean? Whether it's calling the police or doing patrols or whatever the fuck it is, and vice versa. You know what I mean? I'm like, yo, who's this motherfucker's car? You know what I mean? Motherfucker peeking in the window. I'm not just gonna let that shit just happen. Just let it go by. You know what I'm saying? But we don't have that yet. And then we need to be honest about that. We don't have that yet. Even amongst the educated black folks. You know what I mean? We don't have that yet. You know what I mean? I'm talking about the let me borrow your gun type of trust. You know what I'm saying? Like we don't have that type of shit. Like we don't. We don't. We ain't about to. We don't have the type of trust where we're breaking rules and covering each other's asses type of shit. We don't have that. You know what I mean? A lot of us are on some super ultra square, type of shit, and just we on some corny shit. Straight up. We just on some fucking straight up corny shit. And to me, I'm like, that shit has to end, before you can come to me and discuss, the ideas of, moving into a fucking particular area. But again, to me, the logistics on the shit, it's there's too many components to it. There's too many angles. There's too much stuff that going on in the background. It's almost like I feel like, the conversation with Captain Solo is kind of like where you got Amazon now and everything's being bought from Amazon. Malls are closing all over the place, and some people are still trying to have the black community brick and mortar conversation. I'm like, can a brick and mortar store fucking survive? You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you compete with 2-day shipping? How the fuck do you compete with that? I'm saying in 2023, how do you compete with that? You know what I mean? Everybody like has this idea they want to go back to, like, they want it to be like a small town with a main street and the barber shop with the fucking swirling fucking candy cane looking thing, and people are getting ice cream, and the movie theater lets out and the people are walking out, and there's a mall and people are shopping and shit like that, and it's like fucking Back to the Future, but instead of with white people, it's with black people. Like they want, but I'm like, would that survive in 2023? Have y'all been to y'all local malls lately? The malls are dead. They're dead. They're dying. Those malls, they ain't gonna be malls anymore. Okay, I was watching Terminator 2, and that whole scene where John Connor is playing Top Gun on the damn, fucking, at the arcade. Like when have you seen an arcade? You know what I mean? That died with the damn Xbox and the damn PlayStation. Like PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. That shit fucking killed that shit. That killed it. It was over. It was done. Their Xbox was it the Xbox One? You know what I mean? They killed that shit. There are no arcades. You know what I mean? You go home, turn the TV on, fire up the Xbox, fire up the PlayStation, and you got better graphics on that shit with a 4K TV, than what used to bring us to the arcades back in the 90s was the graphics and shit like that. Now, like, please, this is a joke. I got a damn, what's this, the FSF 2000 from AliExpress, little mini game. It's 6,000 fucking games on that thing. I can play the Legend of Zelda, Link to the Past, Super Mario World, Marvel versus Capcom, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Turtles in Time, which is the best, greatest Ninja Turtle game ever. You know what I'm saying? Like, go, like the fucking convenience, all that shit. But do we still need neighborhoods, or have we like grown past having neighborhoods? No, I don't know. I don't think so. I don't want to sound, too extreme or act like what Captain Solo is saying is just too just out there. It's not. It's not. It's not. But there's absolutely a fucking logistical problem, a logistical nightmare, when it comes to this. And the primary issue, if you ask me, is the crime, is the violence. That shuts down. That's not. It's not just a matter of motherfuckers' resilience or some shit like that, moving in there, doing the work. The desire to do it. No. But when you start getting into people taking your fucking life because they want your goddamn car keys, you know what I mean? Like that's some different shit right there. And again, I don't see black men who have the means, desire to want to have to defend their life like that. To want to have to defend their neighborhood or their community like that. I don't see them, from other black men, from Ray Ray and Pookie and all that other shit, or protect and defend, their prop. They're not built like that. That's why they're lame. It's in the name. It's in the title. Like, they're not built like that. I wish they were. They're not, though. Like, they're just not. You know. It just kills me. Like I just don't know many educated black men that are literally sitting, in their apartment or their condo or their house, and they're like, 1 foot away from. I don't know any black men that do that. You know what I mean? Like it's like fucking Coley on the Wall is like a figment of everybody's imagination. They don't engage in the Second Amendment. They don't engage in protection. You know what I'm saying? They just don't. And it just pisses me off, when we have these conversations, because, part of the conversation, feels like it's about, these men and their cowardice and everything. And I'm like, yeah, I know that the cowardice or no cowardice, I know that they ain't built for the shit. You know what I mean? The shit that they might run into, they'll run out of there, first time some shit pops off. Again, we done already seen what happened to the brother at the Seaside Lounge. We done already seen, down there in Houston, where is the response? Where is the retaliation? These niggas just running around. They still don't know who fucking did it. Right? What other type of shit, do we have going on? We have where's this at?
For the ones working hard so things can keep running.
Where's this at? Preliminary hearing. No, that's not it. That's not what I wanted to look at. 1 second. Where's that link? Here it is. Here it is. 6 years. This is the whole giving back to the community. 6 years after killing of sneaker store owner, cops seek helping IDing suspect. What's up with all these fucking ads popping up? This is in Rahway. Authorities are renewing calls for the public's help identifying 2 suspects they say shot and killed sneaker store owner 6 years ago. A $10,000 reward is also being offered. The shooting took the life of Jamal Mally Gaines, an entrepreneur who co-owned the store and died trying to defend it from 2 attackers at approximately 9:15 p.m. on Friday, February 26, 2016. The Rahway Police Department responded to East Coast Boutique on the 1500 block of Irving Street, authorities said in a press release. They found Gaines, 21, suffering from a gunshot wound. He was later pronounced dead. Surveillance video shows the gunmen had their faces covered by fabric and attempted to enter the store through a rear utility door, resulting in a physical struggle that culminated in the fatal shots, according to Union County Prosecutor's Office, which issued a press release Friday seeking help from the public. And, I'll put the link in the description box, but some of you all may have remembered when this went down. But, people were talking about, he was, black business owned, giving back to the community, all this stuff, and I don't know to what degree he was giving back to the community, you know what I mean? But I'm saying black business owner gets killed by 2 savages. You know what I'm saying? And like what I try to tell Cap, I'm like, some of this stuff it's fucking too close, man. It's too close. We saw this even with the guy, the what's his name, Mike Salerno or something like that. The white man that was killed down there in South Philadelphia. You know what I mean? That's an Italian neighborhood. They drove, into the Italian neighborhood to try to carjack somebody. Like, so, and the way that, people think, seriously speaking, is, people in Jersey think all of Philadelphia is bad. Like, that side of the river is just, there's no safe place there because it's just so easy to drive to whatever neighborhood that you want to fucking drive to. People have cars, and people are leaving, poor, impoverished areas. Doesn't make sense to rob other poor people. Go and rob somebody else, and the whole carjacking thing is just going crazy. So people got all type of crime popping up on their ring, and it's just too close. You live in a neighborhood. Can I have a sliding glass door? No, you can't have a sliding glass door because motherfuckers will take the damn grill that you got outside and throw that bitch through the sliding glass door when you're not at work. It's that type of shit. So I don't know. I'm not trying to make a million and one excuses. I'm trying to be realistic about the shit. It's not just a matter of, all the educated people, they left in the 60s, and, now a totally different generation of educated people that have no connection to that environment. Some do, some don't. They got to come back into the environment. And what they're going to do is they're just going to show up, with their resources and all their nice shit and build themselves a palace, in the middle of these quasi burbs or transitional areas, and then the people will recognize and they'll be like, oh man, gee golly whiz, shit, I didn't know that I could go to school, get an education, and put myself in thousands of dollars in debt, and then get out and then get a job that pays me, $60,000, and then just barely qualify, for this dilapidated property and possibly be able to fix it. Oh man, I didn't know. Oh shit, let me go and get my shit together. Like, and there's no opportunities. Like, the logistics on it just don't make no damn sense to me. I mean, you're not going to be received like that. And it not only is it arrogant to think that, it's such a outdated model and concept. And the black community, we love rhetoric. We get so caught up in rhetoric. Now, what Captain Solo's pissed about is he wants to know what the fuck people were talking about when they were talking about we're gonna go in and repair the black community. And his whole attitude, towards, me with the whole, he's like, you can't do it because of the women. You can't do it because of the women. But he's looking at it like, well, I mean, the stuff I bring up, like stuff like equity in homes and stuff like that. He's like, look, I can't tell you that the black community offers you that, because it doesn't. It doesn't. He's like, at that point, that makes sense why the idea of, doing it because the women filed a complaint, that makes sense. But in terms of what personally drives you, he's like, no, the black community doesn't have anything to offer. Doesn't have anything to offer. Now, for me, like, what the black community, ideally would have to offer is a home base. Like, when you see this shit, like this crap with the fucking the woman, the where the two brothers went to, like, Cracker Barrel, whatever the fuck they went to. They went to some diners, truck drivers, and they got disrespected, and they wouldn't, and the folks wouldn't serve them and whatnot, like that type of shit. You know what I mean? I see shit like that. I just want to have my own shit. I want to have you a fuck you community, but we don't have a fuck you community. We don't have I don't need to use your shit. You know what I mean? And that pisses me off. Or the idea that we don't have, and because real talk, you can be a black person in a predominantly white environment, and you can have the money and the resources and everything else, you know what I mean, but you don't have a home base, and everybody knows that you don't have a home base. Everybody knows that you don't have any nice shit anywhere where it's just your people and y'all have demonstrated how you lay some shit out. You know what I mean? And in my opinion, a lot of niggas out here, they try to compensate by buying watches and jewelry and chains and other type of bullshit. But at the end of the day, they don't have their own space. They don't have a black Chinatown. They don't have a black Koreatown. They don't have a black Little Italy. You know what I mean? Where the shit is laid out, everybody acting right and everything. But all of that is tied back to having more black people be gainfully employed. Same thing I'd say about fucking, the fucking Africa. You know what I mean? We have the same damn problem. You get the fucking Nigerians, they always talking about how smart and educated they are, and fucking over 73% of the population lives in abject poverty. You know what I mean? I'm like, I don't care how many bags you buy in Paris or some shit like that. You know what I mean? Nobody gives a fuck. You cannot be that small of a minority of black people that live the opulent lifestyle that you're living, when the vast majority of the people in your country that completely overrepresent you, they're the face of Africa. They're the face of Nigeria. You know what I mean? Watching some video, this dude on Instagram, he's giving people thousands of naira, can I see your home? He goes in the home and shit like that. They don't got fucking running water. They don't got fucking wood panels on the floor. Like the one lady, she looked at it, and yes, before anybody says anything, because I'm sure you're going to come across a video, her skin was flawless and it was immaculate. 100%. But I'm saying this. Nah, I think there was like 3 children there, and they were like, oh, this is your kitchen. Shit is just outside. It's just like, it might as well not be. And then they're like, oh, how much do you pay? Oh, I pay 500 naira for rent and shit like that. I'm like, rent? Who the fuck owns this? And you're paying rent to them for what? What are you paying rent for? To literally just not be directly outside. Like, it's fucking insane. And you got fucking Nigerian leaders and shit like that, and they're all this money and billions and everything, and the vast majority of people live in squalor. Vast majority of people fucking can't read. They're illiterate. The fucking Nigeria's illiteracy rate is trash. Like, again, there's so many moving components. And we got the same issue when it comes to black people wanting to be seen differently and respected and recognized and everything else. But I'm like, sorry, too many of us are living in poverty. Too many of us are living in shit conditions. And that is what people see when they see black people. They see poverty. You know what I mean? And nobody's really trying to do anything about that. They just, especially the bougie, educated black folks, they ain't trying to do nothing about that. Not A, if it's going to cost them, just like the white folks, and then B, they somehow think that, them being in the position that they're in is somehow more visible than the fucking carjackings that you see every night on the 6 o'clock news. I'm like, sorry, it's not. It's not. I mean, it's just a fucking reality. It reminds me of this crap with the damn normalier and who came up with the freaking the Jeffersons and Good Times and all that, and how he stole the idea from a black man, and how they wanted to represent black families, and how even the I forget what the woman's name, but the mom that was on Good Times, she demanded that that they had that she had a husband. Like, I'm like, really? Like, they were really trying to have a show where her being a single black mom, like that's the type of messaging that we needed. See, and again, this goes right into like why you got to control your own shit. So I totally understand the purpose behind black folks, having their own space and having their own community. But honestly, when I look at the shit for what it is, at best, you could get some educated black folks that got together, got a land developer, possibly got, some through, I don't know, some sort of, what do you want to call that? Not protesting, but some sort of negotiation with the government to get a neighborhood of black professionals, established, right? But it's like, how would you maintain that? How would you maintain that over generations? How would this project work? But I'm just saying, because at least at that point, you're not dealing with a lot of the problems that come from prolonged exposure to poverty. You're not dealing with that. Right. And it has to be fully acknowledged that creating, that space has nothing to do with correcting what's going on in the inner city. Because a lot of black people, a lot of educated black folks have this attitude. They're as bad as Jay-Z. My presence is charity type of bullshit. Okay, they're as bad as Jay-Z with that crap, where they feel like, well, I'm helping the black community by individually being a positive representative and the antithesis of all the negative stereotypes of black people. But I'm not building in the black community. I'm not working with other black people. I'm not trying to, establish any sort of foundation. I'm not doing any of that stuff. I'm just literally here and I can say, oh, I'm this black professional, and therefore I add to the number of black people that are black professionals, and therefore, this is, I'm changing stereotypes. Like, that is literally the most of what educated black people believe that they're bringing to the table. That's literally what they, I'm this, I'm in this position, I'm that, but I ain't doing shit for the fucking community, right? And then everything is always good until they get disrespected. Then they get up there and they're like, whoa, then they start crying because they don't have a home base. Then they start feeling some type of way because they get mistaken or mistooken or misidentified for Pookie and shit. They get pulled over and they get harassed by police. And do you know who I am? Do you know who I am? You know what I mean? And just like remember that what was she? She was like the DA or something, and the cop pulled her over. You know what I mean? And she was like, I will be speaking to your supervisor, blah blah blah. Y'all remember that? She got pulled over and he was asking her all type of goofy questions and shit like that. And she let him know, like motherfucker, you don't know who you fucking with, you don't know who you dealing with, but that type, I mean, that it's cool to flex your little appointed power, what I mean, but the issue really is, the fact that that is how you're seen, that is what that's what you're associated with. Now, some of that, let's ask the real question. How much of that is just racism and how much of that is pattern recognition, because that is the position that many of us are in, right? And I'm saying, right, like, obviously racism put black people in that position, right? But I'm saying it's not a lie to sit there and associate black people with poverty. That's not out of pocket, right? It's not out of pocket to associate that, right? It's not out of pocket for me to say that there's, more white gun owners than there are black owners because white people love guns. That's not an out of pocket statement. People can be like, "Whoa, but you're assuming, and that's racist to say that white people have more guns." How is that racist? White people do have more guns. They're white people, more white people that are Republican. More white people at the NRA conference. How many black people you see at the NRA conference? That is what they're about. How, like me, like again, that's me making an observation, right? It's just like when people sit there and they're like, oh, the people with the tiny hats, they control the media and they this and the third. But is it racist or is it an observation? Because when you start going through, the executives, the executive producers, and you start looking at those last names, you start seeing what's up there, right? And we know the origins of it when you look at documentaries like Hollywoodism, right? We understand that, right? So it's like, is it a racist statement or is it just an observation, where you're making, you're giving, you're being descriptive of what you're actually witnessing, what you're actually seeing, so, but, I do hate when people like the danger with that is like, when people just sit there and they're like, they look at the symptom of the problem and they don't look at the root or what caused or created that problem. That becomes an issue. But anyway, I don't want this video to be disgustingly long. I kind of, get that sense. I know I'm over an hour. Let me see this. Yeah. So anyway, let me end this video. That's my video, SWP out. Don't forget to comment, share, like, and subscribe.